Hello, I'm Katherine Horton. I just wanted to report about my very interesting day today. I have just driven to the embassy, the German embassy in Bern, and there are several very interesting things I've learned. And Well, first of all, the first thing I learned is that there's actually there's a surprising number of traffic jams going into Bern. But the other thing I learned is that also I need warmer gloves because I almost froze to death outside the embassy. By the time I arrived, the embassy was already closed for public. But then what I actually did is I rang the doorbell. So they've got a telephone number that you can call, a regular number, and you just put through all the options, none of which applied, and it said at the end, if your request is anything else, please hold the line. And then in the end, when the message is over, it throws the phone call. So that was quite funny. Standing outside the embassy, I was quite amused. Then there was also an emergency phone to call. And the attacks on me have been extremely severe the last couple of days. They have become extremely severe on my eyes. So I've got difficulties with my eyesight. Also, more and more my limbs are being used. And they are doing really just nasty things. So also, for a very long time, they did what I call just muscle pulsing. So when your muscles just jerk like that. And they used to do that systematically on me. So literally they would... It began as just muscle pulsing, so individual muscles would just be made to contract, 2 or 3 times, and then it would move on to another muscle, and that would be made to contract. It would go through systematically. And there were several incidents where my muscles were pulsed systematically, and then my husband was made to have literally like a shaking fit. That's just so stressful, but... Anyway, but the last couple of days it was just ever harder. So now at home I'm just running around with a permanent headache. It feels like stuff is being drilled into my headache. It feels like my frontal, the frontal lobe is being cooked from the inside. And it feels like your brain is burning up from the inside when you don't feel like you literally have something being stabbed into your brain, And that's just non-stop. But this amusing themselves with just moving my hands against my... my will, that has been going on for some time now. But now what they're doing is I'm sitting at my desk and, my legs are being moved against my will. And this is now not falling asleep and having restless legs or some nonsense like that. This is really just brain interference. And at the same time, my head is being cooked. I mean, right now, I just received just a painful shot. And it really feels like someone is amusing themselves with just shooting into your brain, just non-stop. And also at night, they really have hooked me up to one of these chatterboxes that Robert Duncan reported, because at night, and this was really freakish, what they did for a very long time now is to wake me up at 3:30 a.m. or 4 a.m. on the dot, and they wake you up with what feels like a heavy pulse to the head, just like an electric shock to the head. And then I just look at the clock and it's always exactly 3:30 or 4 a.m. And they woke me up yesterday as well. But then there was just this really rabidly fast internal dialogue that I couldn't switch off. Just my brain being pulsed to me to think about this entire topic over and over and over. And it was so freakish because I thought, let's just force yourself to think of something else. And I thought, just think about the Christmas presents that you might want to get for your family. And every time I was really focusing on a person and what I would want to get them, I just received an electric shock. Literally, by now, these Nazis have gone so, just shooting at you in your own home is not enough. They want to get into your brain. They already are in my relationship. We're destroying your relationship. We're destroying your privacy. Now we're destroying your health. And now we're destroying your neurological integrity. But now we're going to also destroy your thoughts. I mean, this is essentially... And I so hope that at some point some forensic psychiatrists just get on the case, because it's essentially classic psychopath runaway. Hannibal Lecter would just go on killing if you don't stop him. All these serial killers just go on killing if you don't stop them. So at some point people have to join us. Actual men have to step in and join us, because it's so heartbreaking, And it's not just what's happening to me, it's also what's being done to many, many other women. So anyway, but it's stuff like that, you know, when you are not even in command of your own brain anymore, and they let you feel it by literally electroshocking you into the head when you dare to think about something else apart from their deranged plans, which are frankly a waste of mankind's life. You know, the BND, MI5 and MI6 are basically the biggest drain on mankind. They are a waste of our time. They just, by default, they attract psychopaths. No one else but utterly deranged, degenerate people would ever want to work for them. So they have to be scrapped. The same for the NDB. There is no intelligence agency on the planet where then at some point people opened their secret files and thought, oh my God, they were doing this really valuable work. Wish we had known. It was always just, what the fucking freak show. And I was trying to say, and today, this morning, when I was calmer, or rather I didn't shoot the other videos this morning, but you know, on another day when I was calm, I was trying to make the point that there are real systems analysis and mathematical reasons for this. It should not come as a surprise when the top of an organization is a bunch of psychopaths. But that aside, I didn't want to waste your time with that. So basically, I went to the embassy because now the attacks have become extremely severe. Also, I went to the German embassy because I have been attacked also in Germany. And just in August, when my husband and I had the idea of just taking a couple of days of holiday in Italy, I was brutally irradiated in the hotel room. And then our car was chased by people irradiating me non-stop all the way back to Zurich. Here in Zurich, my entire body was vibrated non-stop until I packed my stuff and we fled to my parents. But I was irradiated all the way from Switzerland, all the way to my parents. Literally, my face was cooked. And why do they attack you in cars? Because you're surrounded by glass. If you're actually, depending on the make of your car, the glass behind you might come down quite a bit. And I was shot in the back, also by taller vans. So then you realize, hang on, I'm not actually in a metal seat here. You know, there might be like a metal frame, but actually it's just upholstery. And, you know, you get shot. Today I was also microwave driving to the embassy. I mean, by now, as soon as I leave the house, the microwaving continues from cars and it follows me around. And it's extremely, extremely painful and disconcerting. So literally the aim is now to just cook her brain. And this gentleman on my website, under the victims and whistleblowers section, Rock the Boat, there's a gentleman from Memphis who also says he's being attacked from cars. Yes, I have been attacked from cars. I mean, the entire assault protocol just steps up. You know, the BND and the British and Swiss intelligence are like so beyond degenerate. You know, it's like they don't even care it's public anymore. But they keep stepping it up like a bunch of like weaponized morons who the only thing they know is how to punish. And actually, I found very good links for that. If you want to understand where this totally fucked up degeneracy comes from, please Google MI5, MI6 exposed. Google it, and whatever it returns under MI5, MI6 exposed, there should be 3 websites. A first, a second, and a third. Find all 3, make a backup copy, burn it on CD, put it in a safe, give it to your aunt to keep in the attic, and keep it for the Nuremberg trials, because that's serious. It's really serious. That is the root cause. Essentially what I'm trying to get across to people is that this is a tower. So what you will read there is what very genuinely, I mean, it could have been just an entire hoax, and we all will be at some point tricked by hoaxes, but every element that they mention there fits in with what I've seen. So I am, and it's so crazy you can't make this shit up, which by now I realize is actually the telltale sign. So have a look at that. Even if 80% of it is nonsense, the 20% truth will tell you already a lot. And it's essentially about mind control, about how the young recruits to MI5 and MI6 have not just been mind controlled, but raped, sodomized, brutally abused and assaulted. Some were nearly murdered, others were just tortured and nearly died of organ failure. And meanwhile the leadership was just like literally like Hannibal Lecter out on a, you know, just literally it reads like, you know, the high security section of HMP Belmarsh just out, you know, on a field day. And the point to realize is that the people who were doing that, who were the trainers at the time, were initiated themselves in turn by equally psychopathic, fucked up people. And the entire task is to fuck up the next generation, to make them psychopathic. So if you're not a psychopath, that you become a psychopath, you get turned into a psychopath. So sorry, I'll split this into 2 videos because this is so important. And the one thing I want to say is that what's happening to me is getting ever more psychopathic. It's being done by mostly men who just do not know any bounds, so they will not stop on their own. They haven't stopped for any victim. I don't know of a single victim for whom they stopped this. And I keep getting messages that, oh, I should just, you know, flee to Russia, go to Turkey. People keep sending me just, you know, either it's aliens, and the same people talking about aliens then say to me, flee to Russia, flee to... I mean, no. I am living here, and I am speaking up here, and what I want is that everybody does their job, who is paid by taxpayers' money to do a job. That includes the ambassador and many other ambassadors as well. They've got a duty according to law, and literally I will fight them for this. I will fight them, and eventually we'll settle this in court. But by the time it gets to court, it will not be pleasant. So let's not do it that way. Let's not have a rerun of Colonia Dignidad. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. Let's not have a rerun of what Craig Murray saw, which is that he spoke up against torture and all other ambassadors chickened out. Right? So chickening out for an ambassador seems to be like the default setting. So let's see if we can evolve these blokes, you know, maybe like a step further up. Heck knows. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say, okay, is that find that, download that, and keep it as a backup, the MI5, MI6 exposed, but understand that the people who are total psychopaths, you know, recruiters there, have been in turn messed up by other psychopaths. A lot of the MK Ultra control and freakish shit that we don't even understand properly is playing in. And then they mess up the next generation, and this generation seems to be the one that finally spoke up, and nothing they said surprised me, nothing. And actually a lot of what they said, I will try to put links where similar aspects have been corroborated by independent sources. So, and picture seems to be emerging. But what I beg you all to do, if you're working for MI5, if you're working for MI6, also if you work for the NDB and the BND, you all will very likely have been put through the same thing. And I am fairly confident of that because of systems analysis, because this system is ancient. It has infected, I think, all countries. So I think from South Africa to the US, to Germany, to France, to the UK, you are all the same. Do you understand? It's the same pattern over and over. The child abuse, the turning agents psychopathic with just trauma, with terror, with murder, with mutilation. It's all the same. And you have to understand that now exactly the same thing is being unleashed on the general population, which is me. I'm not an agent. I'm not trained. I haven't got a clue about this. And now you kind of signed up to that, or at least you were given some training. The people this is being done to are single moms desperately trying to survive. Do you understand? And it nearly broke you, or it broke some of you. Some of you were killed and you survived. But this is not a program that's fit for the general population. It's an extermination program. And if you survive, it's either by chance or because you're super hard, you know. And to some of you, they told you that you're super hard, and sometimes it was chance, sometimes it was the other way around, you know. But the point is, we don't have to be that hard. This is a psychopathic system. But if you're out there, if you ever get this video before I'm being mutilated and my brain is totally wiped, I want you to understand that what you have to do is you have to break your MK Ultra conditioning. or your MK Ultra trauma damage, you know, because it is essentially scarring your brain, and there's an area of your brain that you cannot access. This is the idea, and that's why it's so powerful, because it will be triggered and you will become like them. Do you understand? You will become like your trainers. But what you have to remember, everything that you read on these 3 pages, and I don't really want to read them out, I found them literally by pure chance, because for my court case I wanted to find the quote by John Scarlett, where he says that, you know, MI6 is one of the few organizations that can do an effective job anywhere in the world, you know. And that's how I found this stuff. But it's just out there, it's on Google, it's like the next link down, you know. But what I want you to understand is that it's so important you step out of this. All of you, and this means all agents, you know. These were people who are coming forward for MI5 and MI6, but it is the same, it has to be the same for the BND, because they're equally fucked in the head from what I have seen. So, and anyway, this program, this pattern, think about it as a pattern of doing things was so successful, it has spread, and it must have spread. Do you see? So you are all, in a sense, you know, I hate to quote George Osborne, but we're all in it together. But he, you know, didn't mean it that way. I kind of do, you know. But the point is, you have to figure out how to break this. And I think there are some videos where people who maybe didn't go through the full, you know, total brain damage, mind control, mind destruction program, figured out how to bypass it, because you have to kind of access that and bypass it and ideally reprogram. So you have to go back there to basically God, because one day we will hit this layer, you see. We're still far away from having to tackle that, but you have to get started now, so that by the time we get there, this is not a problem. So listen here carefully. You have to find a way to access that under safe conditions and bypass. You have to bypass, and you have to recondition, like reprogram on something else. But only you know what this is, only you can access it, and it has to be somehow safe, you know. So I don't know how you would do that, but you have to be safe whilst you're doing that. So you have to be with someone you trust and someone who knows what's going on. So this is really important. And ironically, if you're younger, you might have more of a chance. But it's really, really important. And I want to raise it now because it kind of ties in with absolutely everything. It kind of explains the sheer out-of-bounds psychopathology that's now being unleashed on the general population. It's boundless. And the fact that it's being done in such a large number, the fact that the child abuse has just exploded, you know, and because the system is being ramped up, it's like the funnel is opening and more people are being sucked in. So the system is now running on its own steam. But that's what has to be stopped, because of many reasons. But ultimately, the real reason why it has to be stopped is whilst we're doing this and bothering with this stuff, we're not actually solving the real problems, which are real problems. These are synthetic problems. These are not necessary. There's things we can do to stop them. And in a sense, they're kind of linear and reversible. There are other problems which are non-linear, non-reversible, and they have got to do with totally different topics, and we really need to get onto those. And in a sense, we need everybody back, you know, we need all hands on deck. We might be X billion people, but we literally need everybody to solve these problems. So what you have to do is somehow repair. Do you see? And actually the same thing applies for the leadership all the way up, because you will have gone through the same thing. And if you're the leadership, it means that it's stuck. It's functional in you. And it can be accessed, and it has been accessed by the time you're leadership many times. So this means, I mean, you have to regain your humanity somehow. You have to remember a time in your childhood when this wasn't it, or you have to remember people who did not subscribe to this, because what you actually see there is what I was trying to explain today. Essentially psychopathic systems. It's deep capture, but the deep capture happened centuries ago. Okay, none of us were alive when the deep capture happened, not even like Mr. Global and the leaders of the world. So in a sense, we've all inherited legacy systems. And these legacy systems allowed people to get ever and ever more powerful, and that's why they stuck. That's the secret, you know. The leadership was told the secret that this is how you do stuff. But it's not sustainable, and also now it's globally conquered, and when that happens, it's like a wave that hits a brick wall, it comes back. And now, when it comes back, it's not actually, not even getting any more wealth for anybody, not even the people at the top, it's decreasing wealth. But by the time they notice that their wealth is actually being decreased, the system is already collapsing irreversibly. So we have to cycle the system, you know, now to a more sustainable model. And the only sustainable model which actually, because this is like bounding us, I will make a better document, like an actual explanation video explaining why this is not a sustainable global model, because once it's global you hit the boundaries of the system. Okay, it's not even gaining you anything further, even if you're at the top. It can't, because it's saturated, so then it bounces back and it contracts again. And that's what we are seeing now. And part of it is me. I mean, the fact that the system has become so big, it's starting to destroy productive assets. It has done for ages, but now it's destroying productive assets when you really need them, because there are problems we cannot solve otherwise. And I will get into those. And that also affects the leadership. So this is it. Sorry, I just ended up talking about this, but it's really, really important that you get your head around it and you find a way to repair. You have to find a way to repair. You have to somehow disable what to me looks like these, well, some call it MK Ultra switches or code words or something, but what it actually is, this is like the passageway into the scarred up area in your brain, that your brain kind of put protective, you know, like, you know, boundaries around because it had to. But you have to somehow break out of this. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we will start to cycle the system, and at some point you will flip, and that's when the disaster strikes. That's the non-linearity I foresee, that these switches will be triggered, and then it's not even the triggering that's the problem, it's the non-linearity that follows. Do you understand? So the vast majority of people have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm also just kind of guessing how the system works based on what I've seen. But one of the things I know is if this layer is not disabled, then we get a non-linearity at the worst possible moment. Because in a sense, when you cycle a system, you know, as long as it's smooth, it's all like, but when it starts jittering, you get shear forces. In this case, it's one country or one group of people pulling off and doing something else, trying to backstab others, not actually following the actual system cycle plan, and then all hell breaks loose. Okay, so the system has to be predictable. That's why we need transparency. Everybody has to be on the same page. But as soon as we've got these triggers, it's unpredictable. So we have to iron them out. We have to have closure over this to be able to smoothly cycle the system, I think. Because as long as these triggers are there, the temptation will be to set them off. So it is a race against time. This is a race against time. You have to find out how to diffuse yourself. If you have worked for these agencies, and you will know what I'm talking about. And I don't know what you went through, but I try to emulate it kind of synthetically, trying to do that sort of compartmentalization in my head under controlled conditions. And all I know is it can be like you can be put into a helpless situation. But you have to kind of God, I mean, I've never been through the full thing, so I think you're much more scarred up and it's much harder to access. But you have to access, and people have to help you access this. And you all have to diffuse, all of you, wherever you are in the world, you have to diffuse this because otherwise we can't cycle the system smoothly. Do you understand? Anyway, I'll try to put one video down where I hope I find it. It was a lady. She was talking about how she was essentially I think what they did to her is they were trying to control her and try to fragment the mind and a lot of abusive stuff. But in the end, what they tried to control was also how she went to the toilet. I mean, you know, again, this sort of sick stuff. I mean, controlling your sexuality, controlling these sort of bodily functions is like part of this really like sick psychopathic bullcrap. But anyway, ignore that. And this is something I've heard now, I think, from 2 or 3 or 4 different sources, that it was done with reflective surfaces, with mirrors, with reflective water surfaces, with window panes, glasses, sometimes even bottles, and your reflection on the bottle, and you have to bypass. So what they did in her case is that she couldn't urinate, and she didn't know why. She couldn't go to the toilet, and she didn't know why. And in the end, she realized it is the reflective surface that it was. So in the end, she found a solution by urinating in a trash can until she solved the problem. And this is the sort of bypass I mean. You have to find out what it is, and then bypass until you can inch your way to reprogram. And this is really important. Sorry, I just ended up talking about this. I wanted to say something else, but you know, if you know what I mean, then you will understand what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, frankly, there's so much for you to learn. Don't start with this. Anyway, that's it for now.